Hey, beautiful. Welcome to the Feed Your Body with Love podcast with your host, me, Jennifer Dragonette. This podcast is here to empower you to love yourself, love your body at any size, break free from diet culture, and the media's vision of what beautiful, healthy body looks like. Because what do they know anyways? The time is now to love yourself unconditionally because you are perfect just the way you are. Healing starts with loving yourself. Are you ready to feed your body with love? Please note this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not replace any medical advice.
I am so excited to introduce you to my guest today, Laurie. Laurie is a mom of two and a warrior of sexual abuse, addiction, eating disorders, mental health struggles. After years of self-hatred, Laurie found a way to completely rewrite her inner narrative and learn how to love herself again. Along the road, she has also become the mom to her kids that she desperately needed as a child. So, welcome, Laurie. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you so much.
I'm really excited. I know we've kind of talked and we've had some back and forth conversations, but I'd love for you to share with my audience how this story began. You went from this self-hating in your childhood. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, when I was a kid, I just had a very, very traumatic childhood. I remember, to be honest with you, my first memory ever, I was probably about 3 or 4, and I remember being at a funeral. That's like my first memory ever of life. But then when I was 4, I started being sexually abused by other people that my family knew, and then people in my family. My family was just not very loving and supportive. They were very, very condescending, and my mother was, self-hating. A lot of people in my family were self-hating, and they were kind of just projecting all of their self-hatred onto others, which happened to be me,
Yeah.
So that's basically, all I remember is just, my mother would look in the mirror and really talk down to herself. And, she would be taking diet pills and she was on diet, and she would just tell me, you have the perfect body because you're skinny, and so the self-hatred really, really started when I was around 6 or 7, and I started gaining weight because food was my coping. Food was my, at that point when I was like 6 or 7, food was what I used to comfort myself, but to also, as a reward for, whatever. But then also to punish myself. So I started gaining weight. That's when, like 6 or 7, that's when I started noticing my family was very, very, very rude about how they saw my body, I just wasn't good enough. So there was just a lot that happened at that point that just really made me feel and be very, very aware that the way that I looked and the way that I felt and the way that I was shy and the way that I, didn't feel good in front of other people or anything like that, it was just wrong. Everything that I felt about myself, everything that I felt, just was wrong. And all of the things that they said about me, I took all of that on. And I started really talking to myself in the way that they were also talking to me, which I know so many of us do,
Yeah. I've struggled with that personally too.
Yeah. It's hard because what other people, even though we don't realize it, but what other people say about us, we really do take that on, especially when it's a negative thought, because it's so easy for us to blame ourselves and to judge ourselves, So we take that on. And then all of a sudden, the words that other people are saying about you, you use them as your own narrative. It's become Like, I always use the analogy that we take on other people's clothing, clothing that are not, it's not even our clothing, you know. We shouldn't be wearing it, but we take it on, you know, we zipper it up, we button it up, we put it on ourselves, and we leave it on ourselves. But we have no business to be wearing that because it's not ours. So I always kind of talk about how when you're unlearning all of those words that other people have made you feel about yourself, it's like you're shedding that clothing. You're shedding that clothing that was never yours to begin with.
Wow. I've never heard that analogy, and I love it. So because you're able to, you know, associate with this shedding, do you remember when you started realizing, like, this way of thinking, these negative thoughts, what other people are telling me isn't what my life really is? And is there a way that you started shifting out of that thought pattern?
Yeah, I remember it. I was probably about 22 years old, actually. So I went from, 4, 5, 6 years old and feeling those feelings, having those feelings about myself and having that narrative that other people created. And then it was just this, when I was 22, I don't really know exactly what it was that kind of made me realize, but I just sort of got into this thing of, you know what, this isn't right. I had just been diagnosed, because all of my life I was diagnosed with different mental disorders that, from depression to bipolar to schizophrenia, it was like nothing really made sense. And then when I was 21 is when I was diagnosed with PTSD. And a psychiatrist finally said to me, you know what? After looking over everything and after talking to me about what was going on in my life, just everything, he was like, I don't even think you have any of these. I think you have PTSD. And working with him really helped me to understand, because all of my life I had just kind of felt like, this is me, this is who I am. Of course, I thought I was horrible. From being abused, sexually and verbally and mentally and physically, and then through addiction and through eating disorders, I was bulimic and anorexic from the time I was 8 or 9 and up. I hated my body. I would hurt my body. I became a cutter. I would hurt my body because everyone else was hurting me. Why not do it myself? Yeah. And so, but we do that in so many different ways. And I actually mentioned this in my affirmations book. When people mention self-harm, people think of just cutting or, other ways of self-harm, but our speaking to ourselves in our minds negatively is a form of self-harm. It really, really is, because we are allowing ourselves to take on those words to hurt ourselves, and other people are using words to hurt us. So we kind of go, well, you know what? Yeah, we are. That's what I am. And you just say it over and over and over again. And you allow yourself to believe it. When you have no reasoning to believe it, you just do it because you want to hurt yourself, right?
Yeah.
So at 22, after being diagnosed with PTSD, is when I just started realizing and started really learning to actually love myself. Because, we're born knowing how to love ourselves,
Yeah.
If you see children, they love themselves. They don't judge themselves,
Yeah.
Hating ourselves is a learned behavior. It really, really is. So you have to kind of get back to that point of, okay, I'm going to learn to love this part of me. I'm going to learn to love that part of me. And it's also really, really, it's really powerful to be in a space of loving yourself, but knowing that you can love yourself without you having to be perfect. That is very, very powerful, because a lot of times we feel like in order to love ourselves or love our bodies or, anything like that, that we have to be perfect in order to be good enough for that love. And I think that's what I really, really realized was, okay, yeah, I have flaws. Yeah, there's things I want to work on with myself, but I'm going to love myself anyway. I'm going to be gentle and kind to myself anyway.
That's a big realization right there, is that, we are seeking that perfect, and where is that perfect image coming from?
Right. I mean, it's coming from society, because we think that we need to be perfect in order to be good enough. I mean, when you think about it, when you love someone else, you don't expect them to be perfect, right? You kind of slack on their flaws. You're kind of like, oh, I love you anyway. I love you, and I love every part of you, and whether or not you snore or you chew your food loudly, like, I mean, that doesn't matter, right? We're going to still love you. So why is it that we can love others that way, but we can't give that kind of love to ourselves? That's something that we have to figure out, So, I mean, even me, yeah, I am, I'm an empowerment coach, and I actually am starting to do affirmations coaching too. But even me, I look in the mirror, and yes, there are things that I don't completely 100%, I wouldn't say love, but there are things that I would like to be different. But I can stand there and say, guess what, girl, I love you,
Yeah.
So it was like at 22 is when I started just really starting to get to know myself and starting to get to know who I am, because all of those years of abuse and addiction and self-hatred, it was like a fog. It was like I didn't ever get to know who I was. I just took on that clothing that other people had put out, I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. You go over somebody else's house, they have their clothing out, and then you're like, oh, just going to put that on. At some point you're like, well, I think I need to look in my own closet,
Yeah. I've never thought of it that way, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Like stripping other people's clothing and start wearing something that fits and empowers your own body.
Exactly. In so many ways, not only just literal, but, in so many different ways.
So you mentioned you were a coach, which is something I hadn't done that much digging and research. And you said you've just shifted over into like an affirmation coach. What do you get to do with your clients to help them with this changing their inner dialogue from self-hatred to self-love?
And that's actually, I'm just starting out to do affirmations coaching. I actually, I've been doing empowerment coaching. I've been helping people with journaling. Journaling is a lot of work that I've helped people with. Journaling, writing love letters to ourselves, all of that kind of stuff. But affirmations, I've been using affirmations for about 4 years now, religiously, that I actually know what they are. And for a while there, I was like, no, I'm not going to do affirmations coaching. And then recently I was just like, this is what I need to do. This is what the world needs, because our inner narrative is so powerful when you really, really think about it. Like, what are you sitting there thinking about yourself right now? Like even before you, if you are an entrepreneur or anything, before you talk to a client, before you go live, before you do anything, that inner narrative, even before you walk into a room, that inner narrative is so important, and that can make or break you. Because if you're walking into a room and you're judging yourself, of course you're not going to be your best,
Yeah.
It's so important for you to learn how to be nice to yourself, to learn how to like build yourself up like crazy, and not in a way of, not being real, but just in a way of, guess what? I'm your best friend. I got you,
Yeah. So how do you use affirmations in like your daily life, just to every time these thoughts, because I'm sure these thoughts still creep in because we're all human. How do you use that to kind of bring you out of when you start getting into one of these, like, I call them my shame spirals. I'm not sure what everybody else calls them, but how do you use that to just shift out so that you're not stuck there for too long?
Yeah. Honestly, and yes, you're right. We all go through it. We all, even if you are in affirmations, even if you've done them forever, yeah, we're human, and it creeps in all the time. For me, I think I've trained my brain with using affirmations and using, journaling and using positive mindset. And positive mindset is not about just being positive. It's about loving yourself, But I've trained my mind to really kind of click at that moment, because once that one thought starts, it can trickle, it can spiral, it can blow out of proportion. It can be like an explosion, So I've kind of tricked my brain to start at that very, very moment and stop and be like, okay, why? Why are you feeling this way? And break it down, because most of the time, most of the time when you feel a certain way, it's not because of how you feel about yourself. It's because of how society judges you, So working on that is my biggest piece of advice to someone, is that when you start getting that first idea in your head, right then and there, start asking yourself why. Why do you feel that way? And as you're working through that, you'll come to feel like, okay, you know what? I'm feeling scared, or I'm feeling judged, or I am nervous about how this is going to go, or anything,
So teaching yourself to recognize it and catch it right away.
Yeah. I think that is really an important thing, is learning how to catch your thoughts as soon as it starts, so that you can kind of be like, nope, sorry, that's not my thought. That's not, and then you can sort of tweak it and be like, okay, well, why am I feeling that way? What can I do to not feel that way? And most of the time when I start feeling that way, I can work through it, and then I can be like, oh, okay, well, that's the reason why I'm feeling that way. And then you can just kind of tweak that thought, I mean, it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to not feel wonderful about yourself all day long. It's not what it's about. We all know that that's not even, possible, right? We're all human. Of course, we're going to have moments of not feeling great about ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But it's important to be kind to yourself and to give yourself, understanding. It's definitely important.
I love that. I'm going to start using that. Every time I hear that little voice go off, I'm going to start asking myself, well, why? Why exactly is this festering itself in this moment?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know for me, a lot of the time when those things happen, it's because I'm, fearful of being judged, or different things that happened to me before in the past are creeping in again, and those feelings that we felt in the worst of our times, those can definitely come back in if we allow them to, and if we allow ourselves to really, really work on those feelings when they come up. That's a powerful thing, instead of just kind of, unpacking and living in them.
Yeah.
It works, believe me.
Yeah. I noticed when I talk to people, and for my own story, that sweeping things under the rug was never helpful. Showing up with a smile on your face when you're secretly hurting inside just didn't work. So I think that that's a really important thing for everyone to know. Sometimes you have to sit in your shadows or your traumas for a little while to actually heal through them.
so true. It's so true. I mean, and that's another thing, like loving yourself and being an empowered person does not mean that you have a smile 24/7, does not mean that everything is la, 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 perfect, unicorns, rainbows all the time. You know, the truth is that true strength is when you can love yourself through the hardest times. And true strength is when you can sit next to yourself and just kind of like hug yourself and be that person that you need, you know, to comfort you. And it's okay. It's okay to be real. And I think we're getting to this point right now, which is a beautiful point, that we're all saying, you know what, it's okay to not be okay all the time. And it's okay that, you know, we need to be held and we need to be loved, and we can definitely love ourselves. We don't have to keep outwardly looking for love when we can really, really just kind of love ourselves. You know, I use analogies a lot. I'm noticing that. But it's like, when we keep looking for other people to love us and to accept us and all of that, it's kind of like we have a bucket, right? And the bucket has a hole in it. And we just keep expecting and wanting other people to refill it and refill it and refill it. But it's like, it can never be filled because it just keeps dripping, right? So loving ourselves is like repairing that hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the key to everything, I believe, and if you can't, when you learn to love yourself, everything else, like your relationships and that love you're seeking from other people, then is welcome into I feel it's welcome into your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can truly attest to the fact that since learning to love myself purely and fully, it has helped me become more successful. I'm a better mom. I'm a better wife. I'm a better friend, because when we give ourselves the best and when we love ourselves the most is when we can give people the best and when we can really, really love others. So it truly is like the foundation for everything.
I 100% agree with that. So I also heard you mention that you have a book, you're writing a book, or a book is coming out soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I have two books coming out. I guess it's weird to say. Okay. So one of my books, which is the No Bullshit Guide to Using Affirmations, that one just came out. That one, the release date was literally yesterday. That is a book where I explain exactly in detail how I use affirmations and how I've used affirmations over the years to really, really just completely, you know, change my mindset. And I give tons and tons of tips. You'll probably hear a lot of what I just said because I'm very repetitive, I'm noticing. And then my other book, which is a collaboration book that I wrote with 9 other female entrepreneurs. It's called Shattering the Stigma. That is out right now for pre-order on Kindle, but it'll be out in paperback by the end of February. So those are 2 books that I'm really so proud of both of them. Because first of all, you know, I believe that using affirmations for everything in life is so powerful, and so just everyone should be using affirmations. We're using affirmations daily, whether or not we believe it, whether or not we realize it or not. You know, we are affirming how we feel about ourselves in our heads all the time. So why not use, you know, them to really, really help yourself be in this, you know, better mindset. And then mental health struggles are definitely very, very near and dear to me. And the other 9 women who I collaborated on that book, Shattering the Stigma, with have really just amazing, amazing stories, mine included, just a lot of amazing stories and journeys through mental health struggles, but it's a book about overcoming, and it's a book about not having to live in the stigma of mental health and overcoming and being successful and all of that.
Oh, that sounds so exciting and powerful. I'm excited about both the books. And I know one of the books has a flamingo on the cover, which is one of my favorites. So I'm really excited to check that one out too.
That's my affirmations book. And I was just, I knew, like, I was like, I want people to look at this book and feel good. You know, I mean, I'm a reader. I love to read. And when a cover of a book just feels good, the whole entire thing feels good, you know?
Yeah. Sparks a little joy.
Yeah. And you know what, that's what life is about. It's about, I mean, life is about the storm and the rainbow, you know, at the same time. And we can love ourselves through both times and all times and really just kind of, you know, be what we need for ourselves and everything. I'm all about empowering ourselves and, you know, just realizing that our power, our true power, it really, really does. It lies inside us. And we just have to find that. We just have to kind of, you know, sit with ourselves and find that power and step into it and just kind of live there.
I love it. Take the time for yourself so that you can step into your power.
Yeah. I mean, it's important. Just kind of sit there with yourself. Write down a list of what do you like? What do you enjoy? What makes you happy? You know, it's not about what other people want you to enjoy, what other people want to make you happy. What lights you up? What fuels your fire inside of you? You know, it's so important.
It really is to be living for yourself.
Yeah.
So I would like, if anybody would like to find you on either social media or find either of their books that are coming out, can you tell us where we can get it? And I'll also put it in the show notes.
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram, search I am Laurie Somma. On Facebook, you can search official Laurie Somma, lauriesomma.com. And honestly, if you go to Amazon and you type in the No Bullshit Guide to Affirmations or Shattering the Stigma, you can go ahead and order and pre-order those books right there.
That is so exciting. I'm excited to check those out too. Is there anything else you want to leave the audience with before we end for today?
I think I really, honestly, I just want to reiterate that everything that you need is already inside of you. You just have to find it. You just have to love yourself and learn to love yourself again. You know, kind of just take off those clothes that other people made you wear and put on your own. You know, step into your power. All of that good stuff. It's already inside of you. You just have to find it and sit there and live there. And yeah.
And you can help them find it, right? Through your coaching.
Oh, I would absolutely love to. Yes. Let's definitely, you know, work on those affirmations together and really, really just unlearn all of that inner narrative that is not even any of your business, you know, to be saying to yourself. You know, just learn to love yourself completely.
So if you're struggling, reach out to Laurie because she's got you.
Oh, I do. It's like, girl, I got you.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time. And everybody should reach out and check out these books.
Thank you so much for having me.